Truck Talk Media.
C10 Talk, episode 320. We've got Dave Balluck. Who? How about Squarebody Dave? Oh yeah, I know that guy. Well, we're going to get to know him a little bit better. Here we go.
I talked to all these old men, like the guy that I know that's got like 4,000 cars and trucks, and it's insane. It's overwhelming. I took my lunch there, I don't know how many times, and I still haven't seen it all. Where I was going with all these old men, they have these collections of trucks, but they all have one thing in common. They don't have anything done. They don't have anything nice. But I don't want to be that guy. I want to enjoy them. I don't necessarily drive a square body every day, but I want to have some good drivers and not just yard art.
Damn, son. USA1Industries.com. Your square body source. Used them for my SEMA build. I've been pimping out their dashes for so long, 10 plus years. And people would always ask me, where's the best dash pad? USA1 Industries. USA1 Industries, without a doubt. So the team over there has been so supportive to me, my build. I get on their website, their process, it's easy, it flows. I can know what parts, and sometimes, honestly, I'm not even sure what parts I need, but when I go through the website, it kind of cues my mind, and I'm like, oh yeah, I should buy that. Oh yeah, I need that. It was extremely helpful. I got 2 large shipments when I was doing the Big Sky Bonanza build, and it saved me. It really did, to know, oh yeah, I'm glad that I ordered that. So when you're going through a big build, think USA1 Industries. Great support, fast shipping. Everything came just as I needed it to. And honestly, their packaging and their labeling was great. So I would be going through packages and I'd be like, oh yeah, this is this grommet. Oh yeah, this is this hardware. So support those guys, USA1Industries.com. They are the title sponsor of C10 Talk, and we appreciate all their support. Check them out, guys. 73 to 91, you need it. They got it. They ain't got it. You don't need it.
Let me tell you what Melbourne Post is packing right here. I've got 411 posi track out back, 750 double pumper, Edelbrock intakes, scored over 30, 11-1 pop-up pistons, turbojet, 390 horsepower. We're talking some bucking muscle.
What does that do? Does that blow your mind? That just happened.
Welcome to C10 Talk, your C10 truck podcast.
And now I have a chance to be the best, maybe the best in the world.
My old man is a television repairman. Got this ultimate set of tools. I can fix it.
I said I got 50 cents in that jukebox, and all I can hear is your mouth clapping. You hear that?
Here's your host, Ronnie Wedge.
What's up, C10 Nation? Coming at you, a little Squarebody Dave for 320. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving and, happy holidays. Getting ready for Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's. We got a lot going on. 2026 just around the corner. Flipping amazing. I mean, what a year. Kind of recovering from the SEMA Get Down / Good Guys 3 weeks in a row for me over here. Obviously had Brandon Burrell on 319 and thought, you know what? I've been talking to Dave, so I said, hey, let's get to know you a little bit better, jump in and get to know his backstory. So fun chatting it up with him. And I'll probably do at least one more before Christmas. Give you guys something to listen to for the holidays. You're out and about. Maybe, your significant other is dragging you around. You're having to do some shopping. Or maybe you're a shopper. I'm not a shopper. I do not like shopping at all. So, if you're shopping and you like shopping, I hope you're listening. If you're shopping and you don't like shopping, well, there you go. You got to listen. We just had C10 Cruise Arizona for Toys for Tots. Those are going on. I know John Orr just had his. And it's awesome. It's what the community is about and pulling together. So I know they're going on all over the country. So you guys get involved, give back. We love it. You get to go for a cruise. We did a little poker run, and that was fun. And we had some tacos over at Big Ten Garage at the end. just, again, good times, hanging out with your friends, your family, bringing it all together around the holidays. So if you don't have a Toys for Tot in your area, maybe you, or another cause, get involved, find out, reach out. They're definitely prevalent around this time of year, and it all goes, again, to a good cause. So one other thing, speaking of toys, Orange Slice M2 should be out about the exact same time as I drop this. So I know they had pre-orders for a bunch of people across the country. I was able to get some, so I will be listing those. And Orange Slice M2, I mean, it's a dream come true. Got my own Hot Wheels, and it's such a rad truck. They did such a great job, and so to have that as a die cast is absolutely awesome. So if you want one, trucktalkmedia.com. For every purchase of a regular die-cast Orange Slice, we're going to put you in a drawing for the Chase Orange Slice. So I'm going to give away 4 Chase die-casts, and whoever buys the OG Slice will be entered. So if you buy one, you get 1 entry. If you buy 2, 3, 4, you get 2, 3, 4 entries into a Chase vehicle. And I'm going to give away 4 of those, and it should be fun. So trucktalkmedia.com if you want a little Orange Slice. Again, I think they killed it. They absolutely did. I mean, it looks perfect. So I'll post that up on the Truck Talk Media website, trucktalkmedia.com. Easy peasy. Let's get into Squarebody Dave 320. Again, hopefully you guys are doing great out there. Thanks again for tuning in. Check out 319, Brandon Burrell, and appreciate the support. All right, guys. Have a great week. Late. All right. What up, C10 Nation? Back in the saddle. Feels good. Stoked to get to know Dave. So, Squarebody Dave Balluck. He's in Northwest Arkansas. And
Home of the Hogs.
Home of the Hogs. I think they're out of football right now, so we won't bring that up. But there's a lot of controversy. Yeah, back in the day. Are you a big Hogs fan? Are you a big football guy?
No, I'm more of a truck guy than anything.
Yeah, for sure. Most guys are pretty big truck guys. I think just right out of the gate, tell us who Dave is.
Dave. So, as everybody knows me on social, Squarebody Dave. Just from Arkansas, born and raised here. My whole family is actually from California. So, a lot of people don't know. I get a lot of messages. They're like, "What do you do for a living?" I'm actually a diesel mechanic. Went to college for that, trade school. That's what I do full time, and I'm just messing with trucks on the side from there. It's just a passion of mine, and I enjoy sharing it with everybody and going from there.
So when were you born in Arkansas, or somehow the family, when did that transition happen?
Yeah, so I'm the only one in my family. I have a pretty small family, but if you notice, my last name Balluck is actually a pretty uncommon name, especially around here. But I grew up in Arkansas. I was born and raised here. Like I said, my family roots are in California. That's why I mentioned that. But honestly, I've never even visited California.
Huh. Well, you're in deep on these trucks. How did that happen?
So it started. I grew up super poor, run-of-the-mill story. I mean, we didn't even have running water growing up, and you pretty much just had to work with what you had. So, as most kids grow up, they want a go-kart, they want a motorcycle, they want a dirt bike or whatever. So, luckily, my dad was able to get some of that stuff for me. But I remember when I was 5 years old, he told me he had a '70 Honda mini bike. A lot of people grow up on those, and it didn't run. And he said, "I'm going to show you how to clean this carburetor once, and after that, it's on you." So I learned how to do that, and I was always fascinated with getting stuff going that necessarily started being broken, if that makes sense. So a big part of my background growing up with all my friends and everything was four-wheelers, ATVs, three-wheelers, dirt bikes, and I was the guy. We if something was broke, I figured it out. I mean, we were reusing head gaskets, we were using tools that didn't go in the right places, and we were just using what we got. And then slowly, when your friends grow up, they start having kids, and you spend less time together. That transitions into trucks, and just been following the passion with that. But square body specifically, in high school, I was looking for a truck, and 76 K5 Blazer was sitting in someone's yard, and I'm like, hey, wondering if you want to sell that. And they were like, yeah, I'll take $300 for it. I'm like, that is hell yeah. But the only problem was I didn't have $300. So my friend actually lent me half the money, and we got it going and drove the crap out of the thing all through high school. Took the doors off, took the top off, and what a lot of people don't know, there's a video of me jumping a wood pile way back in the day in a Blazer, and people call me Blazer Dave. And I got away from the Blazers and just trucks fit better, so that slowly transitioned into Squarebody Dave, which I started keying the phrase, I guess, in probably around 2012. And I like posting pictures to my Facebook a lot. And my buddies were always giving me crap. They're like, why are you posting all these pictures? And I think that stemmed from talking to all these old men, talking about the car or the truck that they used to have and tell you the one that got away. My dad had a 63 split window, and it's like, that's really cool, but most of these guys don't have photos or videos of that car. So I'm like, I'm young. I'm starting to buy all these trucks. How cool would it to be to, put them in an album? And when I start talking about them, I can say, hey, here's that truck I'm talking about. So I realized through my close Facebook friends, I was bombarding them with all these trucks I kept dragging out of the weeds, and no one really cared. The people I went to high school and stuff with. I'm like, I'm gonna make a separate page of this. So it originally started with Instagram, and as of like 3 years ago, started with Facebook, and I think I am ticking right on the door of 500,000 followers on Facebook, 150 or so on Instagram, and another 120 on TikTok, and I'm slowly dipping my toes into YouTube. People want some more long form content, but it's been a wild ride, man. It's awesome seeing all the support, and like I mentioned to you on the phone before, I just never expected to be in the place I am coming from where I did.
Well, and like we talked about, just setting this up. I mean, you have somebody who knows what he's talking about. You have somebody who's passionate about the trucks. And I love the lineage to the old guy, right? It's like, hey man, I love talking to these guys and hearing about them. I wish I could see some of the builds that they are talking about. And even if they have pictures, they're so shitty because they're over
Right.
time, they're a Polaroid or whatever it might be. You don't get quite the grasp. So we're lucky, and we're lucky that we have guys like you that are, whether you like it or not, influencing people.
Yeah.
And you're the cool thing about you, as I follow as well, is you're not a gatekeeper. You're like, hey, this is something cool that I learned. Look at this old pile of shit. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this, and this is something that you can, learn on your own. And this is what I did, and you share that information. So I think the passion that you love the trucks and that you're willing to share those experiences, and even I mean, you seem so down to earth. You're like, hey, I just learned this from another follower and I wanted to pass it on to you. So, with the following that big, you recognize that you are able to spread the love.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I remember, you know, TikTok really put me on the map, I would say. I posted on Instagram for probably, I get a lot of people, like friends that are good at making videos and stuff. They're like, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? And I'm like, bro, I didn't get over probably 1,000 followers until like after posting 10 years on Instagram. It's funny, I would run across these people like this girl my buddy was dating, and she didn't do anything. I looked on her Instagram page one time and I was like, you got 1,400 followers? Like how when I'm posting like these pictures of these cool trucks? But TikTok come about, and just like everybody, when TikTok come out, I was like, that's for kids. I don't want to spend my time there or whatever. And I remember my buddy did something really funny. I was building a little Honda car I put on a side-by-side frame, and I'm like, I've seen that on videos. So I posted a video on there, and it just slowly I started posting everything there. Like I said, I took it off my main Facebook page and started posting it on the web, and it just took off. And I remember I posted one video on TikTok one time of my 1 ton Bonnie is what I call it. And that one video gained me like 14,000 followers. And stuff's changed as people know in the social media world. There's really no trick to it. It's just the algorithm, sometimes helps you, sometimes it doesn't. But the main thing is I just try to stay consistent. It's a passion of mine. And like I said, I enjoy putting knowledge out there and sharing stuff that I know. And once I realized, it kind of hit me like, when I had tens of thousands of followers, I'm like, whether I like it or not, I am, in your words, an influencer. So that's when I started, thinking, well, on some of these trucks, as simple as, stabbing the distributor may be common sense for a lot of guys. Everybody knows that. But to a kid who's just buying a square body or something old, they don't even know what a carburetor is. They don't know that it's got a manual fuel pump. They don't know where to start. So sometimes you'll hear in my videos, I say, we got to remember what may be common sense to you, someone may not have any clue about. And I'll put little stuff out there like that, and it's crazy the amount of comments and stuff I get, in a positive direction. And I just want to say to any of my followers that listen to this, I really appreciate you because a lot of people in the comments, it can go crazy, can go negative pretty quick, but they're on them right off the bat. And I was just reading a message a minute ago. I posted a video just a second ago about the last square body I bought didn't have keys, and she mailed them to me, and she said I don't know if they would fit or not, and just made a video, and it was real, and I was like, heck yeah, they fit, and a commenter, hey, we're down here in Texas, we appreciate what you're doing, keep posting, and little stuff like that, and I get these messages, and it's just awesome hearing the people stories, I'll get messages from 14, 15-year-old, girls or guys, and they're asking me, hey, I'm looking for my first square body. What's something I should look for? Is this a good deal? And I'm able to help them. And I take, it takes me a while sometimes because I get so many messages, but I try to reply to every DM, because it's just awesome hearing people's story and what they're dealing with, because it all just focuses around the trucks.
Well, I think too, like you said, the kids, if it wasn't for guys like you, they wouldn't have that ability and they would get frustrated. And so keeping the young guys and girls going with these trucks and answering those questions, because they're just trying to figure it out. They like the trucks, which is cool, and having people that can help them navigate through some of those issues. Obviously, YouTube is I believe the number two search engine in the web,
Yeah,
and people are doing it all the time. I mean, I look at kids nowadays and they just go right to YouTube. I mean, who doesn't anymore? Whatever you're doing, you're like, hey, I want to make sure I'm going to do this right, and I'm going to look at a few different videos and watch this.
yeah.
You said you wrench, by day. What do you do? Big equipment, small equipment, cars? What's your wrenching background?
Yeah, so I went to diesel school. Like I said, I grew up super poor. So 2 weeks into diesel school, Northwest Technical Institute here locally to me, I got a scholarship, because my parents' income actually paid me to go to school. So 2 weeks in, I was driving a Chevy Love to school, and it would barely run, and me and my buddy were splitting the gas bill to get there. And I said, look, guys, I need a job. And I think, like, not to toot my own horn, they could tell that I had common sense. And they pulled me in the office and they told me that they know I can do the job, but they're worried about me doing stuff, getting stuff done, but not necessarily the right way. Because before that, I'd never used the power impact. I couldn't just go to town and buy an Allen wrench where a torque screw went. Some of those tricks, it's funny because at work they're like, "Hey, I need whatever size Allen." I'm like, "Hey, this torque bit will fit that," and they're like, "How do you know that?" And you just had to use what you had. But I work for a commercial fleet. They're pretty big about social media stuff. So I'm not gonna say the name of it, but it's pretty easy to find. They're nationwide, and I am a master ASE certified diesel technician with the Class A CDL. So that's been awesome job security, and just I enjoy it. Going from there and just learning everything I can, constantly evolving there, and there's always going to be work. If something like what I'm doing now doesn't turn into full time.
Yeah, what's cool about that is, like you said, that and realize that, and you have a skill set, you have a trade. Is that one of those deals where you were placed like right in tech and you've been there the whole time, or have you bounced around a few different places?
Yeah, so going off like my original background, I knew mechanics was always in my future. Growing up, my dad didn't have a shop or anything. He's not a big mechanic or anything, But I remember down the road, his friend that we always went had a big shop, and my dad would not let me in the shop because it, and looking back now, I know he was just not wanting me to mess stuff up. Tools ain't toys and stuff like that. So I respected it, but at the same time, it's like, well, that's what I want to do since you tell me, I'm not allowed in there. So that's kind of where it stemmed. But the main thing was just the passion of being able to fix stuff myself and, just go from there. But little odd and end jobs. First job, I weed eated for 8 hours. I lived on the lake, so me and my buddy would chug a canoe over to a camp and weed eat there. And then I did wedding venue setup. But my first job was for Tyson Foods, working on their over the road trucks, and then that transferred to where I am now. And I've been in this position for almost 15 years.
Yeah, what a cool experience. Like you said, it's cool that you wrench by day and then you get to enjoy it by night. Some people get a little burned out,
Yeah.
so that you get to change it up a little bit. Do you have, when you think about your fleet and what you've been able to obtain, just like we were talking the other day, you're like, yeah, I was at an auction, probably buying shit I don't need anymore, or at least looking
Right.
at stuff. In that Arkansas area, that Northwest Fayetteville where you're out of, do you travel far for auctions? Are you always looking at farm equipment? Are you looking for square bodies? What are you looking for?
Yeah. So if you follow my social media account, I post videos about everything that I find. So Northwest Arkansas here, we're big. It's rolling hills. I mean, there's a lot of farms, but unfortunately, a lot of these old timers are dying off. So a lot of these farms are coming up, and you just never know what you're going to find. So every weekend, I'm going to a farm auction if one's available, but just constantly looking for trucks. Square bodies, ever since I took off with Squarebody Dave, that's kind of what I focus on, and that is my passion. And as a man told me one time, there's a place pretty local to me. It's an old man. He doesn't have a cell phone or anything, but I got in touch with him, and he has over 4,000 cars and trucks like in the woods. You wouldn't never know it's there. And he likes his Fords and he likes his Mopars. He said if it's Chevy, I'll sell it. And but you even ask him about a Ford part, and he said, "Don't even ask me. I like them better than money." So that's a phrase that I've kind of stole. And when people ask me how I just keep buying all these things. I'm like, well, it's a passion and I just like them better than money sometimes. But I don't travel a whole lot, and I think that holds me back a little bit. That's something I'm trying to get better on. It's something that, I guess I'm more of a homebody. And I was thinking about that earlier. I think where that stems from, because like I went to LS Fest, it's like 5 hours away, but growing up with all these trucks that you never knew if it was even gonna make it back home, I guess that's just still in my blood, it makes me nervous, going farther than that, and it took me a long time to even put over $20 in my tank, because I'm used to all these old trucks and everything. But if a truck pops up, I try not to go more than about 3 hours away.
So you're thinking, like you said, you're kind of a homebody. Obviously, you've got different guys from farm equipment to different trucks. At what point, like, would you say, are you buying them to build? Are you buying them to have inventory? Are you buying them for parts? I mean, are some pretty, what would you, a six, a
Yeah.
seven, an eight on a 10 or so? I gotta imagine there's some just beat up guys too.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I started just dragging everything out of the woods I could. I have a local Facebook group called Ozarks Iron, and if you look at the card, I think I have one right here. It's got a 50 Chevy on the front.
Mm-hmm.
So I was digging cars out of haulers. To me, these old cars and trucks are like finding fossils, and it's like it's crazy what people had back in the day. But anyways, I was dragging anything and everything I could get my hands on. When I was a kid, going back to my dad's story, I would knock on people's door. I didn't have money, but I remember pulling on a Firebird. Or, I was able to scrounge up $50 and get that. And me and my dad kind of go back and forth. And I got a pretty big collection before I was even like 15 years old. And and scrap got real high. And I'd come home and something would be gone. And I'm like, and it just made me, feel a lot of stuff. But back to what I was saying, I'm digging these old cars out and in rough shape, like you said. and I think they're cool. And I'm like a kid in a candy store with them. But when I go to sell them, stuff like that's hard to sell sometimes. And a lot of people just want a good project and they don't want yard art and stuff like that. But recently, in the past couple of years, I found like a 36 Chevy sedan, had the suicide doors at a farm auction, really good shape. And I posted everything on Marketplace, but that got shipped to Los Angeles. I bought a 64 Impala. That got shipped to Switzerland, I believe. And
Wow.
just in the last month, I bought a 63 E-Type Jag that pulled at a random farm auction, and that got a lot of attention, but that got shipped to California. But as far as my main content, it's square body. I like 73, 79 round headlights. That's every time I put a poll up, people are 50-50 square headlights versus round. Um, my jam though is it's got to be original paint. It's got to have all matching panels on it, whether it's rough or not. I mean, the rust around here isn't horrible. It's nothing like probably where you're at, but I posted a video yesterday. I went to a farm auction. It's actually selling right now, but an 80 Chevy, just farm truck, 4-speed. It's got some rust in the fenders, but it's all matching still. But the story on it, these rough trucks, you know, to me the funnest part is just people hit me up a lot, and I'm fortunate to have the following I do now, and I've made some deals. People message me say, "Hey, I got these trucks," and sometimes it's something sitting, sometimes it's something like nice. And I prefer a non-running truck because my favorite part is digging it out, cutting a tree out of it, washing it, and getting that first startup video. And I respect painted trucks and stuff, but it's just not my jam.
Well, like you said, they're kind of following, they're finding you now because people know in your community, they're going to say, "Hey, Dave, they want you to find those things. They want you to have those things." And have you ever had a haul where you're like, "Dude, it's like 10 trucks. I mean, whether or not I can afford it, I got to make 6 trips, whatever it might be." How does that work out for you?
Yeah, so it's funny when I go to these auctions and stuff, people say it's an addiction. And for me, I think it really is because if I see something pop up and it's a reasonable deal and it's something that I'm attracted to, I mean, I'll sell the farm to buy that truck, whether I have the money or not, I'll make it happen. And like I said, it's got to be the right truck, but I am working on a deal right now. It's about 3 hours away, so it's a little difficult on the logistics side, but a guy hit me up on Messenger, and I'm like, this is too good to be true. For four-wheel drive guys, a CUCV with the Dana 60, Turbo 400, NV208, 456 gears, minus the 6.2. Some people love them. I'm not a fan as far as actually keeping them. He's got 12, I think it's right at 12 CUCVs, 1 ton, single wheels sitting that retired farm trucks, and he offered me a good deal, package deal on all of them, and I was like, well, I need to go see this. So I drove my rollback up there, and older guy, really hard to get a hold of, but thankfully I found him before I left, and I was able to haul one of those trucks back. But like I said, if I like I said, I never expected to be here, but I'm starting to think bigger. What could I turn this into? And I'm Square Body Dave. There's really not a go-to square body guy. I'm not a parts guy. I get messages all the time, parts, parts, parts. And I pass on a lot of parts trucks, but I'm starting to think, I need to bring those home. But they take up room, and to me, if it has any chance of living on, it's hard for me to tear it apart. A guy locally, Square Body Salvage, he doesn't have that inclination. He'll tear apart trucks that break my heart, but it's to the good, because a lot of people are getting good parts of them and fixing stuff up. But for me, it's like a family member sometimes. Even though people, I'll drag something home that people really want, and they're like, "Hey, you want to sell that?" I was like, "No, man, it's sentimental." And they're like, "You've had it 2 days." I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, it's just what it is. So I'm constantly chasing, but what I picture in my head, a goal, because I have so many DMs on trucks across the country that I could be buying if I had the financial resources. So I'm picturing like a crew cab, C60 decked out. Since I have a Class A, build something custom in a car hauler, and I can make a round trip and start picking all these trucks up and stacking them up, and then start letting them go, obviously, and parting them out, and just going from there. Because growing up, I'm sure these parts were everywhere. I mean, you could drag these things home for nothing. People would give them to you. And now people are having a hard time. They're like, I can't find a steering column. I can't find a dually fender. So there is a need for that. And I haven't went that direction yet, but I think that could be in the future.
Well, a couple points. You bring it up. I love it. These trucks have souls. You have it for 2 days and you've already given it that soul back. But I think what, happens a lot of times is people, for me, you talk to the old boy that had it and that kind of transcends into you. And so now it becomes part of you. You just have to look at it like, this is square body therapy, but you're passing it on to the next guy. You can't keep them all. And then, like you said, the square body salvage guy, I mean, those good parts, that's awesome, right? So he's breaking down, you would hope, trucks that are broke down to a certain point. But we got a couple scrap guys here too, or salvage guys, and they just blow them apart. There's no soul to that truck. They got to move it. They got to make money. They got to make bills. They got to put their kids through college, whatever it is. So, that's pretty unique. And I think at the end of the day, you just got to look at it like you're that pay it forward type guy where you find them, people trust you, you're honest, and you're going to say, hey, yeah, this is where we're going with this. When you talk about the parts, I don't know if I've ever shared this on the pod. I think I would have, but I've got confirmed stories of my dealership as a kid. And they had so many parts, square body parts, that when the 88 to 98s came on board, they had no room. So they had dumpsters of parts that they dumped and took them to, junkyards, salvage yards, scrap yards, parts that they had no room for. And as that evolution happened, and they needed to make sure they had, I'm assuming this is probably by 94, they were like, yeah, we're not selling these square body parts as much as we need to, maybe a fender or whatever might be taking up a lot of room. And then they got rid of dumpsters full of parts to make room for all the 88 to 94 parts. And who knows, by then it might even have been the GMT 800 at, 99-ish. So it's pretty crazy to think that there's parts that we could have gotten, but it all comes down to value, real estate, and who would have thunk, you know what I mean?
Right. I had posted on my Instagram, Facebook today. I've popped up on Marketplace a guy on one of the square body pages. He found an NOS, like an 81 tailgate, and he's got it posted for $1,700. No paint on it, obviously, in the box. And it's just like, wow, to have the knowledge of that stuff back then, but it's the same story, the cars that's worth money now, the trucks that's worth money now, you hear the story every time with the older generation. Well, if I would have known, if I would have known, so I actually think it would be super. I get so jealous of these old men, it's cool, or these guys that, they're like, I'll knock on the door and the truck's still in good shape and everything. They're like, yeah, well, I bought that new. And I got a 73 short bed. That was actually, he said he bought it new in Vegas, and he's 80 something years old and he just couldn't push the clutch in anymore. It's a manual steering, manual brake, just a bear to drive. But he's never changed a single thing on that truck. But I asked him, I said, do you remember how much you gave for that truck?
Hey guys, are you thinking about swapping out your old motor for a more reliable LSLT based power plant? Behind each PSI harness, you get over 10 years of experience in the business, online tech support, phone support, and harnesses made in the U.S. That's psiconversion.com. Hey guys, whether you're coming or going, UP Car Parts has you covered, or in this case, has you bumpered. They offer high-quality, premium, heavy stamp steel as original in either chrome or black paintable for the C10 Nation. They have all generations covered and ready to ship today. So when you think bumpers, think UP Car Parts. upcarparts.com. You've heard me talk about my gauges, Dakota Digital. I love them. Dakota Digital has the best gauges for our trucks. These kits are complete with sensors for any engine. They look just like the stock clusters, but have all the technology you'd expect from Dakota Digital. It's like a modern truck, but even better in a classic. Dakota Digital is absolutely the best in aftermarket gauges, so check them out at dakotadigital.com. dakotadigital.com.
He's never changed a single thing on that truck. But I asked him, I said, do you remember how much you gave for that truck? And he said, I gave $2,300 for that truck. And I'm like, well, hell, you made money having it all this time. And just being able to tell the story like, hey, I bought this new and to keep it in good shape. Or, even like you're saying, the parts, nobody thought they were worth anything. I've said in plenty of videos, like, these LS swaps are cool, but when you go to the junkyard or you see people buying these trucks, it's like a really clean Tahoe or a really clean Cat Eye, and they're just junkyard ripping these 5.3s, these 6.0s out. And I'm thinking, well, I mean, for sure in 20 years, maybe less, people are going to be wanting to fix up these trucks, and these parts are going to be hard to come by. And you're going to think back at the time that you ripped this LS out and you literally scrapped all these good parts. But it's the same with OBSs or really anything you think back on. So I spent a lot of time trying to think ahead of the curve. Like, you learn from your past, from these other people, and like holding on to the trucks and stuff like that. That's why it's hard for me. A lot of these trucks get sentimental real quick, and I can look out the window here and I probably got 10, 20 in the yard, and people are like, well, you probably should sell some. I'm like, yeah, well, I don't really got any I want to sell right now, but I think I got a plan for everyone. I mean, I can see a truck drive by, or I can see it on Marketplace, in 2 seconds. I got that whole build in my head, like what I want to do to it, how it's going to look and stuff. And honestly, I probably need to spend more time building them than buying them, but it's just an addiction. But if I'm trying to share, but I'm picky on where they go, because even like these cars, I bought a 72 Camaro at an auction. It was really cool. I got the trunk open. It had been sitting forever, and there was like mullet cream back there, and the really old like Curse 6-pack and a bamboo fishing rod. I'm like, man, why'd you park this? And anyways, a 12-year-old bought it with his dad, and I recently got a paper in the mail where they were trying to title it. So I'm like, they definitely did some work to it. So, like I said, a lot of these trucks, they end up with my friends. That's why a lot of them that I built or you've seen me dig out that I don't necessarily own anymore, you still see show up in my videos because they'll drive them to shop nights or stuff like that. But like I said, a certain truck, it takes a while, but I will let them go. There's certain ones, obviously that I won't. I dug out this 79 K20 a while back. I call it the trash truck because the whole thing was full of trash in the back. He said, you got to take all of it with it. And we literally had to take shovels and dig it out of this creek that it was in. But in a matter of a couple of weeks and some shop nights, I mean, it was running. And I recently sold it to a guy, and it's a landscape truck now in Branson, Missouri, I believe.
Well, you said it. I mean, you got 10 or 20 in the yard. You've got a build going for each one in your head. What ends up happening is you have to, and I can only tell us because I'm older than you, and is it happens, but you got to eventually start selling them because you're never going to get them all done.
Exactly.
The trucks now, unfortunately, are kind of the cheapest thing. I mean, depending on where you want to build it. Like you said, you like the original paint, but it can get carried away real quick to whatever level you want to, go with it. But I think eventually you just got to say, hey, I'm going to keep these 5 or these 10. And then, I could sell these off to friends or family or whoever. And then I can spend that money on the 5 or 10, especially if you're going to scale the way you'd like to scale and go around and have fun. And I think people would really enjoy that. Not only you being you, your knowledge, your passion going around. I mean, I've thought about that plenty in my life of how much I would love to just drive around the country and interview old boys and people, especially before they pass, the original
Right.
owner or maybe the son or the second owner. I mean, because I love the story just as much as I love the truck. How many would you say you have right now?
Well, a lot of people ask me that question. If you don't if you would just watch my stuff and assume I don't get rid of anything, you would think that I have like a shit ton of them. But most of the time, I keep around 10 to 12 at a time. But like we were talking about getting collecting them, I talked to all these old men, and there's a lot of people. Like I'm kind of known for having a Square Body collection, but there's a lot of people I know, and there's a lot of people that's actually active on social that have a lot more than me. There's a guy called Big Trucks Low Bucks, and he did a video the other day. He has 75 1-ton four-wheel drive square bodies in a row, all Kingpin Dana 60. And I'm like, that I may be skewing that a little bit, but I mean the line was crazy. And but where I'm going with that is like when I said I don't really buy a whole lot of these parts trucks is I talked to all these old men, like the guy that I know got like 4,000 cars and trucks, and it's insane. It's overwhelming. I took my lunch there, I don't know how many times, and I still haven't seen it all. Every day I find it, what that'd be a whole nother subject, but it's funny. I was looking for 70s parts or 80s parts, like a dash or something, obviously. And I was looking and looking and looking. I'm like, man, he's got no 80s square bodies. And then it dawned on me that this stuff was put here before the 80s. And it's like that stuff wasn't even around. But where I was going with all these old men, they have these collections of trucks, but they all have one thing in common. They don't have anything done. They don't have anything nice. I can think of one exception to that possibly, but it's just sitting. But I don't want to be that guy. I want to enjoy them. I don't necessarily drive a square body every day, but I want to have some good drivers and not just yard art.
Yeah, it's I mean, you know it, you realize it. You know, you watch these videos online on YouTube and TV, and these guys pass away and they've got a barn full of rad shit, and you're like, that's cool, right? The old as we were kids, it was the whoever dies with the most toys wins, and you're like, but does he? Does he win?
Right.
Because he's got all these trucks, and I mean, we both know. I mean, I would almost venture to say 50% of the guys I know that are builders or collectors, they don't even drive them. They just want to build them, enjoy that process, that therapy, that's fun to them, and then make the money and ship it on down the road, and they like that part of it. So you like to find the hunt, right? I mean, I think everybody likes that part, especially with Craigslist auctions, marketplace, different things like that. It's like it's fun to get the hunt going, and you're like, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't be hunting right now. I have those other six there that I haven't even done anything with. But
But
but Facebook Marketplace and these little phone things, just the hunt is constantly, it's on, and we're
yeah,
always having fun, and you build it in your head, time, money, and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna say you said 10 to 12. I'm gonna say you're holding out on us a little bit. There might be 15 to 20. Do you have what's your favorite? Like I know you said 73 to 80 round headlight. Do you have like one that you have had and you let go and you want back? Do you have one that is the pinnacle of square bodies for you?
yeah. Well, I'm a full drive guy. I'm most well known for my truck Bonnie is what I call it. 1980 crew cab camper special full wheel drive. It had a 454 big block in it. I could go through the whole story, but I'm like 7 ricks of firewood hand split and like $500 in that truck. So I drove it forever, and it got to the point where the flex plate cracked. And I'm like, well, that gives me an excuse because I've been wanting to come and swap something and I haven't ever done it yet. So pull all that stuff out, box the frame, and just went through a complete renovation, because it's the one thing that I followed through on because that truck, I always had that vision in my head, that rack I built on top. I could look at the truck and I could see it in my head. I just, finally brought it to life. And I'm a little upset at myself. I have a rendering of that truck of what I want it to be, and I could have already been there by now, but I've been focusing on all these other trucks and stuff like that. But that's my main jam is 1-ton full drives, not necessarily dually or crew cab, but anything full drive. K10s are a lot easier to come by. So when it comes to K10s, I'm a long bed guy. I prefer long beds over short beds. The short beds are cool and they sell better. But like I said, round headlights 73 and 74 would be my favorite year models to go after.
Why?
The simplicity of it, the grill. You go to these swap meets. Next time you walk around, every swap meet you go to, you'll find a 73, 74 grill, and they're deep, and they're. I gotta say, I got a super crush on your Blazer, by the way. That's like
Thank
that.
you. I'm a 3-4 guy myself. So I
Yeah,
mean, I was
yeah,
born in '73, so it must
yeah.
have been what I was growing up on. So that's kind of why I wondered. I love a 3-4 grill. I mean,
Right,
I would
right.
love on my K25, which is a GMC.
Yeah.
I've even toyed around with switching that out to a 3-4 Chevy grill. People would lose their
Oh,
minds, but I think I'm going to do it just for maybe
right,
once or twice. I
right.
can. But
Yeah,
I love that grill, so it's cool
yeah.
that you said that.
Yeah, just the look of that deep grill, and then 73 dead giveaway, no rain guards, which is kind of biting me in the ass because no rain guards, the weather strip's going, the top of the doors rot out, the rocker panels rot out. Not nothing crazy, but I just like the simplicity. And when you're actually working on them, you think any square body truck is pretty simple, but once you pass over 81, you start looking under that dash, and there's just a lot more stuff to deal with. And the 73 I got right now, a lot of people don't think they exist, but it's factory points still. Not necessarily that I like points, but it's just simple. That truck doesn't even have a cigarette lighter option.
Yeah, that's the low of the low, right? Is it
Yeah.
inline six?
No, it's that is the one option it has is a V8 four barrel, four,
Nice.
four on the floor.
Yeah, I've seen some really, really low, like just the lowest option. I think it was a 258 inline six, no cigarette lighter,
Yeah.
no radio, which is cool because, radio, then you don't have an antenna. I always liked that on a 67, 72. And
Right.
I've had radio delete on 60, I guess, 60 to 66, but now you would want that because everything is, I don't want the antenna. I don't want some of that stuff that's already there. So if you were going to build your truck, okay, so I'm going to give you, well, let's go back real quick. You said you want to come and swap your crew cab.
Yeah.
12, 24, 4BT. What are you thinking? Do you already have it? Transfer case, NV
Yeah.
4500, 5600. What are you doing?
Right. So I was buying all these trucks, and you get there with the trailer, and any four-wheel drive truck will do whatever. And I'm like going back to these 40s, 50s model cars that were off in the haulers and stuff like that. I was like, I need something to recover these things. So it's probably been about 4 years ago now. I went through that complete overhaul. The thing I bought a 96 Dodge Cummins, pulled everything out. So it is 12 valve SWAT, 5 speed, 205, got a hold of off-road design, 7-inch Alkin springs all the way around, 14,
7 inch.
yeah, yeah, 14-inch Bilsteins all the way around, uh, H1 wheels up front, 37 military takeoffs, 16 fives all the way around, dualies in the rear, and I built a headache rack, or it was a sliding headache rack. I added the cab rack, and I get questions all the time on how I built that rack. A lot of people like the look of it, and I built it for hauling my Fuller on the top for when I go to these places. I can, scout stuff out or whatever. And it's got cutting torches on it. It's got winches front and back. It's got onboard air. It's got chain slings. It's got roto packs, fuel cans, gas and diesel. It's got everything, all kinds of bunny burners on it. But that was really helping me out digging these trucks out and the power of being able to pull stuff out, the winches and everything like that. And recently I upgraded to a rollback. So it sits a lot of time, and a lot of followers give me crap that I'm not using it for these recovery deals. But when I can drive across town, suck a truck up and be home, and recover something that quick, it's kind of hard not to, but I still break it out. And I I turned it up recently and did 500 horse injectors, 4,000 RPM governor springs and everything. Seems every time I take it out now I break it, so it's sitting a little more than it ever has at the moment.
Well, and I've seen you utilize that truck a lot on your socials.
Yeah,
It's almost like with your rollback, it's the perfect time. Like break it down and
right.
get after it and build it the way you want it. So you've got Bonnie for your, industrial mechanical machine. What
Yeah.
about if I gave you 100 grand?
Yeah.
100 grand.
Right.
What are you building?
I know exactly what I'm building. That would
That
be
let's
a
let's let's let's
a
go, baby.
I want a 73 GMC Jimmy, uh, orange, wood grain, white wheels, just built to the nines. Roadster shop chassis, coil springs, 1 tons and stuff like that. I still look era correct, but have everything new. I can. It's another one of those things I can see in my head. I got a picture of real something similar on my vision board, but I always get my heart broke because something like yours, a 73 or 4 or 5 Blazer, I run across them all the time, but they're just gone complete. I don't know what it is about the Blazers, but to find a solid one anywhere is hard to do if it's not all, there's really no in between. They're either junk or they're super nice and super expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, it is hard. I do think they're out there, and I think that there, at least we know there's a lot of metal that can be used to fix them. So I don't know what it is, man. Blazers just got worked, they got worked, and I think it's just people loved them. They did get cheap for a certain period of time where, especially squares. I think half tops, I mean, I've seen some half tops, like you even said, like you had a 76 and they called you Blazer Dave. I mean, man, fenders cut. It was like people were picking them up for, under a grand and they could just beat the shit out of them
Oh
and just build these massive romping, rompster, rock crawling 4x4 hunting rigs.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And so, yeah, now we're like, oh, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Even obviously, for whatever reason, 69 or, yeah, 69 to 72s, maybe they were just already priced up a little higher, that they weren't to that level. Squares, yeah, I just think like I think square round headlight Blazers just took a beating. It must have been a point where fuel was expensive and people could get those cheap, because I think even your 81, they only made 80 only made tool drives up till 82, and then you got your 81 and 91. And I don't know. I mean, I do see some slope grill square headlight that have been beaten up pretty well, but I feel like by then they maybe started coming back a little bit, and people took care of them a little bit more. Where
Right.
people just, man, they just, whether it's the metal, whatever it is, they just beat up pretty bad. So, okay, so you've got you build a 73, 74 Jimmy, 73. Orange, are you thinking, what kind of orange are you thinking? Like a bright orange, a burnt orange, a red
Well,
orange, a hugger
I
orange?
I ideally to me, like I've been talking, it, it would be the holy grail, but I would like to find a survivor style, because like something like what you built is awesome, but the before, what you started with was great too,
It really was.
Yeah, yeah. So
Well, it
it,
wasn't supposed to get that far. It wasn't supposed to get out of hand. And there's times where I almost feel like, man, I had a really nice blazer, and then you start over and you think, should I find a worse blazer to do that to? It is
yeah,
kind of,
right.
but it is nice to not have to just, oh, some of these things are so bad. It's
Yeah.
like a house remodel. It's always worse than you think it's going to be.
Right. And a lot of, like, going back to the kid thing, like I get people asking me, they're like, "Hey, what should I look for?" and stuff. And as I get older and with adult money and start building some of these things, how expensive some of this stuff is, I tell people buy as much truck as you can. Because I was bad about dragging anything and everything home. But if you're actually wanting to fix one up, even if the paint's gone, it's got a little bit of rust, but you open up the door and the whole interior is there. I mean, you're saving a lot of money. And we're all guilty of it when we're growing up or kids, and really anybody, they get all gung ho on these projects, and they'll drag home a square body, and it's a runner, it come off a field or whatever, and they're like, I'm gonna completely restore this thing, even though they've never restored anything before, and you end up with a blown apart truck, basket case, and some people stick with it, and it's awesome when they do finish them, but most of the time, no one is able to finish the amount of work that they think they want to do to the truck.
Yeah, it can be way more. It just happens. I tell guys all the time, buy a runner, buy a driver, and start there because you're gonna, if you buy a project, and I have explained that to people all the time when they're like, yeah, I'm gonna sell this project. And you're like, dude, nobody wants your beat up project. Like you'll be lucky, like you just tore it down too much. It takes a very special person. It's like getting married and adopting like six kids. I'm like, dude, nobody wants to deal with that shit, okay? Like
Right.
it's your project that you painted it the color you wanted. You did this, you did this. So you're
Yep.
gonna take a massive hit if you decide not to finish a project, whether that's life got in the way, money, time, whatever, health, whatever it might be. So yeah, it's there's a lot going on there, you know.
Right.
So
Yeah. One of the most recent ones I drug home was a custom project, someone's pride or whatever, and they did a lot of work to this, but it's a 86 Suburban. They bobbed it in the back and put 1 tons on it. Thing's got 586 gears in it, hydraulic assist steering. It's got a PSC gearbox on it. I mean, it's got ORD springs. It's got everything. And, you know, I've done a lot of content on it, and people are like, you got to put that back together. You got to put that back together. But, you know, I don't have a passion for it because it wasn't my dream. It wasn't my vision and stuff like that. But a lot of my friends are like, your followers want to see that back together, even if you get it running and then decide to do something with it. But, you know, I could pull all that 1 ton stuff out and put it underneath one of these short bed full drives I got out here and have a really cool truck. So you open up the door on that thing and the interior's mint on it. So it's kind of hard, you know, it's got a title, it's got, you know, it's kind of hard to just walk away from that. But at the same time, I'm saving so much money on all these parts, you know, and that's why I bought it.
well, speaking of parts, I think a guy that has spent so much time around classic trucks, old trucks, square body trucks, do you have a parts? And I'm not looking for necessarily like I'm looking for what when you are buying the hard to find part, when you're trying to find something, who do you go to and why? Who's your vendors that you really enjoy working with?
Yeah, well, that sounds real similar to a lot of DMs I get. And I tell people, you just got to keep your eye out. Because, you know, growing up, there was junkyards around. You could go around and just have free reign. And junkyards are a little nicer now. They're gravel up already up off the ground and stuff like that. But those older trucks, I mean, they're just getting harder to come by. You hear it all the time, and people give me crap all the time. I'm like, man, those are getting hard to come by, and they're like, yeah, because of you, you know, because someone be looking for a certain transfer. There's certain things I hoard, you know, hydraulic clutch assemblies, 32 spline transfer cases, you know, just random stuff, and when you need that stuff, you pretty much gotta just find it out in the wild. So I tell people, you know, keep an eye out. Don't be scared to knock on doors because a lot of times you can get a whole truck and just even if you need the 1 or 2 pieces off of it, you can get your money back out of it. So I tell people keep your eyes out, marketplace, people parting trucks uh, out and stuff like that. But my go-to, if, if it's certain body parts or whatever, it's that guy I'm talking about that's close to me with that I'm in with that has all those square bodies to choose from. But most of the time I buy a complete truck and I'm not really looking for major parts. So I started, you know, LS swapping them and just making them more of a driver. I'm not much of a cosmetic guy. You know, I can do anything mechanically. I'm just not much of a paint guy. But I recently, a couple of years ago, I got a good friend who's really good at, you know, I don't want to say faux Tina, but that heavy half truck I got an itch. I got a buddy Wicked Speed Garage, and he's got, you know, he short bed 2-wheel drive is his jam. So he started turbo LS in them, and I go up there and ride in these hot rods and stuff. Like I said, I'm more of a full drive guy, but I got the itch for a nice short bed because I can't bring myself to tear apart the 73 I got because the old man's never done anything to it. So I'm not a fan of it, but being a 2-wheel drive long bed, they're just they're hard to sell. Like a lot of people like them, but most people don't. So I'm like, a buddy of mine was running kind of like a chop shop. Not, I get, I don't know. He called it that, but he would. You can bring him a long bed, and he would cut it down, make it a short bed, frame, brake lines, drive line, weld it, everything, turnkey. You drive it back out there for 2,500 bucks. So I knocked on the door, got this heavy half, and it hadn't run in a while. And I try. A lot of people ask me what I get for these trucks, and I always try to pay a fair price. I'm not trying to rob people, But that one, he agreed to $1,000 on, so I pulled it out of there and took it straight up there, 25. So now I got a nice short bed, and I took it to my buddy with the paint, and he was able to add the whole hood and top was rusted, so he was able to put some color back in it, put cab corners on it, and you would never know they were changed because he's so good at airbrushing and matching the patina and stuff now, which is really great because, like I said, I won't hardly buy a truck for myself if it's not fully original, fully matching. But now I'm starting to look at these trucks that may have been hit. It's got one mismatched fender on it, and he can make it look like that was never changed.
Yeah, that's a talent. I told my painter the same thing. I said, if you want to start making money, whether we all know it or not, but I mean, Boris from Street Machinery, he's got a guy, Jerome Boris, who is like the doctor and the mad scientist. I think Brian Bastine down in Texas, he does the same stuff. So if you got a guy who can do that, I mean, that opens up so much when you're looking at a bad fender, stuff that we used to kind of think, nah, I've had a paintless dent guy out, and then you're kind of let down. It's obviously, especially a round headlight, the metal just gets, it's thicker back, 60s, 70s, 80s, and it starts to get less and less. Obviously, I've had a PDR guy out on an OBS, and man, they just go to town. They can knock every little thing out because it's softer metal, the way that they, form those parts, those fenders, those body panels. So that you've got that availability, that's gonna, open things up for you for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've had this conversation. I get in deep thought about these things sometimes, and because my buddy is trying to build a 55 Bel Air, and I'm not into cars. I'm not just really a car guy. I have a 72 AMC Javelin with a 401. I put a 5-speed in it, Holly Sniper. It's a Pierre Cardin edition. Super cool car. I just like it because it's not of the run of the mill, first gen Camaro. You pull up to a gas station, no one knows what the hell it is. They're like, "What is that?" And the old guys know what it is, but just going from there, like it's just crazy how popular patina and stuff is now, because it tells a story. But you talk to these old guys, and and it's not a nice truck unless it's got perfect paint and stuff like that. And I got to thinking pretty hard, but I'm like, I guess that's because patina wasn't a thing yet, because they some of these rigs ain't old enough to ever see that. So a lot of these old timers, as far as a show truck and stuff, I mean, you would never see something old or with, Mother Nature's touch on it at, a car show, let's say 30, 40 years ago. But growing up now in our generation, my generation, your generation, you know, we grew up in these trucks and they're getting more popular now because everybody that's a little bit older likes the 67 to 72 or the 64 to 66, but now the square bodies are just taking off.
Well, and I do think there's that level of patina. You bring that up, and I mean, I absolutely think a crisp patina with an upgraded interior. You can make a brand new vehicle and have the original patina, and just it's awesome. I mean, it tells a story.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
not spending 30, 40, 50 grand on paint. The
yeah,
time it takes to do all that, you can go through, clean it all up, maybe gap some of this stuff, maybe take the clip off, put some new body mounts on there, and you really can build a nice truck, SUV, Blazer, whatever it might be. And I think a lot of this, when you look at like the Broncos, the Scouts, the Blazers, the Wagoneers, I mean, there was a lot of those before minivans came around, and there was a lot of those in the 70s and 80s, and they're it's the real deal. And a guy can justify that, like, hey babe, we could still hold the family in here, and I can have a classic vehicle at the same time, and potentially a 4x4. So it's pretty badass that you can do all those things for sure.
yeah. It's one of a kind at that time, and I mean, you're not gonna have someone pull up next to you that's gonna look just like it, and
So you bought a C10, and it either had AC at one time or it wasn't even an option. Well, Vintage Air has the solution for you. Their SureFit kits are designed to place the evaporator and hoses behind the dash for a factory clean look. The Vintage Air SureFit kits are the best value and the most completely engineered air conditioning system you can install in your C10. Damn, son, the choice is obvious. VintageAir.com.
Have you guys heard of Doja Mat? Retro mats done right. You know those classic floor mats we all grew up with? Well, Doja Mat has created that same classic style with all of your favorite slogans. Check them out at dojamat.com. That's DOJAMAT.com. Dojamat.com. Retro mats done right.
It's one of a kind at that time. And I mean, you're not going to have someone pull up next to you that's going to look just like it. And I'm starting to, like I said, I started putting LSs and stuff, and now I'm kind of upping my game a little bit. I bought my first set of Dakota Digitals the other day from Squarebody Syndicate, and they have been great. Joe up there, I mean, he's awesome. They were one of the first people to reach out, and it's been awesome to, support them brand and just have all these people behind me. But I got companies that reach out sometimes just crazy to me, because now I'm getting people that are like, hey, we'll send you this if you do a video on it, whether it's, some truck parts or stuff like that. And now I'm, God's blessed me with, I just put videos out there, but I'm in a position now to where I'm making money off these videos. So I'm able to turn that back around and put these into these trucks and create more content and just keep the ball rolling.
So some of those aftermarket companies, again, same thing. You talked about some of the, OE and NOS and junkyard parts. When you think about some of those aftermarket companies, who have you worked with and who do you really enjoy their products?
Well, like I said, I'm trying to step my game up, but I watch everything Roadster Shop does. They're awesome. Square Body Syndicate's been awesome. They got their columns. They've sent me their chrome pieces to put on the, something small as the window trim or the grill. And as far as engines, I still prefer to build the engines myself. But as far as, aftermarket company, just a little bit of everything. I haven't built anything really nice, and I think that should, is going to try to be a goal of mine. Get something done. Like you said, it can look how I like it on the outside, but I've never done a complete interior. I've never, I could do a lot more than what I'm doing. It's just hard a lot of times because one part will cost as much as what I usually get for a whole truck.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to throw out, like, have you ever done aftermarket AC? Obviously I'm a big proponent of precision replacement. I used USA One on the Blazer a ton. You've got LMC, you've got AMD, we're lucky, right? We're so lucky. There's so many, but there's also aftermarket companies that I bought parts from and been disappointed, and you're kind of like, man, this sucks. And that was a big thing with the SEMA build. Sometimes you have to buy two or three because you might not get the right one, and you might need to buy two or three, and two might be from one company and the third might be from another company just in case. And you have to kind of work through some of that. I don't have anything major that we weren't like, that I would be like, dude, I'm going to blast these guys, at least on the SEMA build.
Right.
There's stuff that you go through, but for the most part, and I do think we were at an advantage because it was every part or sheet metal was original to the Blazer, so
Yeah.
that made things really nice. I mean, obviously even the hood, So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, going through and breaking down what you have and what was given to you in the buy, but
Oh, yeah.
just like you've done. You build something or you buy something and it's it's half there. That's a tough one because then you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're going out to the junkyard, you're going out to the side yard, you're going out to the backyard. You're calling Paul down the road and you're like, hey, do you have this bracket? Hey, do you have this? I need this. And that's where you can really get where, like you were saying, sometimes you can buy a truck for $1,000, $2,000, and that's the gift that keeps on giving. It's like the giving tree. I don't know if I assume everybody's read that, but
Yeah.
the giving tree just keeps giving and we keep taking, and you're going to have parts vehicles out there. And sometimes I'm not going to lie. I'll be like, how the hell did I put that together? I go out and look at it and be like, oh, that Dumaflachi goes over the whatchamacallit, and that thingamajig goes right there. And
Yeah.
that's what I was doing wrong. I had the thingamajig on the wrong side of the camber, caliber, whatever. You know, it was just like, so it can get a little bit where having a parts truck, if you have room and a backup, and you can rob Peter to pay Paul.
Right. Well, I like I said, I appreciate the nice trucks and I do want to go that direction. But I think why I have such a big following and why I'm relatable to a lot of people is because to build something, you know, to get it done, it costs a lot of money. And my target demographic, I say, is, you know, just your run-of-the-mill guy who just has a square body and they're just trying to keep it on the road, or maybe it's all they got, or, you know, it's kids buying their first one, like I said. And they're not necessarily nice trucks. A lot of people have nice trucks, but more of, you know, just your drivers that you see going down the road. And I've thought about that a lot because, you know, there's really not you can go to C10s in the park and stuff like that. There's a lot of nice trucks and drivers and stuff, but I picture maybe one time getting a get together, doing a show where you completely backwards from what you think. Like, hey, you're going to get a trophy for the most amount of miles, or the most rust, or the most, you know, mismatched body panels, or stuff like that. But like I said, these kids reach out to me, or they're super happy to show me their trucks. But in reality, I mean, it's not a nice truck by any means, and it's not my style. You know, it's spray painted and stuff like that. But that's, you know, where my roots are and where, you know, I like to stay, but I want it to be nice. But like I said, I want to have something like one day, like the scale of what your Blazer is, would be fantastic. But obviously, I'd have to change some priorities. But I think my followers would be happy to see me follow something through like that.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track,
Yeah.
100%. You just keep finding the rad stuff, and you'll know the one. And remember, what's cool about what you do, and I think you understand this, but you what you do applies to the masses. It applies to the high yield of most people out there who
Right.
are keeping them on the road. I literally pulled a guy over the other day, probably followed him for 5 miles. I've seen this truck for 15 years, and he just happened to be driving, old boy. And I said, hey, what are you going to do? 73, 74, Okra. So
Like a moth to the flame.
Spanish gold,
Yep.
Spanish gold two-tone, white, C20. And I go, what do you want to sell that? And he's like, no, I'm not ready to sell it. I'm like, come on. And he's like, no, you know, and I've seen it. I mean, and he's probably, I'll say he's 70, drives it, you know, I know right where he lives. And but yeah, it's just one of those things where I think the cool thing about this is what you're doing is to the general masses. You brought up some killer companies, obviously RS, Syndicate, and what they do in their high level builds. Do you have a build or a builder that you really watch that, like you said with RS, do you have maybe a guy that you love his style, you love what he does, you know, something like that you know, I always used to use Dell and talk about Dell's style. Dell's switched over. He's doing some 4x4 stuff now. He's obviously doing some Ford stuff too, but I have a few builders that I really look to. I love their cleanliness. I love their style. Do you have anybody like that you really look to and you're like, man, that, you know, and what's cool is now you're realizing that you're also looked at as well for somebody
Right.
who's building stuff and maybe just keep it running. You're like you said, it's like,
Yeah.
hey, dude, I got to work on Monday. I got to drop this distributor in, rebuild this carburetor, throw this son of a bitch in, and try to make sure it's tuned right and timed right, and get down the road.
Yeah, for sure. As far as square bodies go, I really like Joe Yezi style. Just clean. I mean, as far as square body goes, I mean, that's about, you know, where it's at. But as far as who I relate to the most, I would say Heavy D with the Diesel Brothers.
Sure.
And I actually had a Zoom call with him the other day. I'm part of a thing he's got going on. He's fixing to release, so that was kind of cool. But when he come out, I just really related to him because even what he does now, you know, the random uh, digging equipment out, buying this stuff at auction, seeing what you can flip it for. And as far as the four-wheel drive trucks, not that he's an old truck guy or a square body guy by any means, but that would be more my style if you're talking about, as far as who I would look to.
Yeah, can you imagine combining the two? And that's kind of what you're doing, where you get that, like with your crew cab, it's like, okay, I got a Cummins, I got this. And I've said that for a long time, what's cool about what we can do is we can take the best of what we know is the best of, now, whether that's a Duramax, whether that's a 12 valve, a 24 valve, and putting that in a square body, and it's unreal. And for me, with the Blazer, it was crazy. Like an LT1 and a 10L90 fits,
Oh
and
yeah.
it fits in something that is 52 years old, and it's just crazy to think that we can do that in today's world. Take that drivetrain that you pick, that's your favorite. I mean, I could see a lot of guys are going to be a 12 or 24 valve with a NV4500 or a 5600, and build it around a crew cab 4x4 square bed, maybe make it a long bed, maybe make it a medium bed, maybe make it a dually, and build your ultimate, truck. And, I mean, I've always thought a 72 crew cab medium bed would be the ultimate truck, like, because they didn't make them,
Oh
they
yeah,
they
for
kind
sure.
of made them. But now you got Brandon Cisco doing what he does, and a couple at one point the guy Artec was doing it, but he gone. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's guys out there doing that, and just some really cool guys. And where you're at, I mean, whether or not there's a lot of people doing, a lot of builds, you're popping up as one of the bigger influencers in that Arkansas Ozark area, and I
Yep.
think that style is appealing to a lot of people in that area.
Right. No, it's crazy. I'll drive Bonnie somewhere like to the gas station and it's just so crazy to me. Like I said, the following I have, it doesn't matter where I go, and people come up to me like, hey, and it's always positive and they want to check out the truck. And I never knew you were local. It's like, yeah, but I could be 3 hours away at an auction and people come up to me. They're like, all right, they're like, I just got to ask, are you Square Body Dave? I'm like, yeah, and, we'll go from there. But I recently gave one of my hats that says Square Body Dave. I got one right here. I got a little bit of merch going, and he was like, "Man, I was wearing that in Florida the other day," and the guy was like, "Do you know him?" He's like, "Oh, I just sold him a truck. Yeah, I know him." They're like, "Oh, that's crazy," and just having that influence, is something that I don't take for granted, and that's why, some of my videos, if you've seen them, my Truck Talk Tuesdays, I'll have to do one here in a little while, and I went through stuff, growing up in anxiety and, a lot of things in life that, a lot of people go through and it's really hit me hard. But I realized that you just got to put the work in and you can dig yourself out, but it takes work. And I started listening to like Andy Frisella and all these personal development podcasts. And I realized like I was dealing with these anxiety attacks and stuff, and I'm like, I figured out stuff that worked for me, and I'm like, I'm talking about trucks, I'm talking about everything people are relating to. Why can't I throw that in? If I'm going to influence people, I might as well, influence them on life too, because if you're the run-of-the-mill truck guy, or you're not worried about life, you're not worried about stuff, but that stuff catches up with you, and like I said, Tuesdays I try to put something out that you can implement that may help you, but tie it into a truck term. That way people kind of understand it a little bit better.
Well, and like you said, I mean, people are going through a lot of different things. I also think that trucks can be therapeutic. You
Oh
go
yeah, for
out to the
sure.
shop. I mean, it can be stressful, but you go out to the shop, you might just, whether you're drinking a beer or water or coffee, and you just sit there and wrench, put the music on in the background a little bit, maybe no music, maybe just silent. And whether you're working for 30, 60, 90, 120, however many minutes you've got, and you get out there and you just wrench a little bit. And I think that can be therapeutic for a lot of guys as well.
Yeah, for sure. And then, just like the simple stuff people don't think about, I try to make them aware of, how much, a 20-minute walk a day, which I've done a mile a day I've probably missed 1 or 2 days in the past probably 4 years. I walk a mile a day, whether it's dark, whether it's raining, whether it's hot, and if you're outside, it just teaches you that conditions are never going to be ideal. So if you just get something as simple as that done, or like I tell people, as long as you read one page of a book a day, it's going to get done. It's just like building a truck, it gets overwhelming at times, but if you go out there and you say, oh, well, I get a lot of comments, or, people use the excuse, well, I ain't got money. Or I'm like, well, you could be wire brushing that rust off. You could be cleaning this. You could be prepping that. You could be, doing a lot of things. Well, I ain't got the tools. I ain't got a shop. So I try to incorporate it. Like I came from that. This is the first concrete I've had personally. I got like 2 years ago. I was just shade tree. I did my first LS swap out here in the yard. I backed the truck in with a gas motor, and it took a while because I was getting overwhelmed with it, but now that I've done it, I'm like, this is so simple. That's why I'm such an advocate for it, to make your truck more reliable and stuff like that. It's kind of a hit and miss what people like as far as that stuff goes, but just putting in the work, in whether it's in your life or the truck, the project, whether we realize it or not, our bodies, ourselves are our own project as well.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. Like you said, one bite at a time, one page.
Yeah.
Go out. What can you do? You can, get a SOS pad or get something, and you can always do something a little bit. And it's that. What's crazy is what happens is once you get momentum. I think a lot of this happens with people's bodies and their diets. They're working out, they're walking. Because you have a 4-year run, you don't want to break that run, and you're like, hey, I'll go walk a mile, and I don't care if it's raining, whatever it's doing. I'd rather go do that and spend the 20 minutes walking than miss a day and making it happen. So what do you see in the next, because you've gotten here in the last, let's call it 10 years, what do you see, do you have a 1 year, a 5-year goal? What do you think you'd like to, if we said, hey, 5 years from now, we're going to meet back up and chat it up. What are we going to be talking about?
Right. I think it'll pretty much stay true to my roots. I want to keep rescuing them. That's where my passion is. And, you know, like I said, I got this intel now, these people bringing me these leads, something behind a barn or in a property that, you would never know of or wouldn't necessarily hit the market. I'm fortunate enough to say, hey, I know I got this. I've gotten messages before, I'd like to fix it up, but I can tell you're passionate about these trucks and you'll give it a good home and stuff like that. So I want to utilize that as much as I can, but maybe focus more on sharing them, getting them back out there in circulation. But I enjoy the most. That's where my roots are, the content and digging them out, getting them running and stuff like that. But I do want to focus more on, saying, okay, like you said, I'm not going to get them all done. I don't want to be the old man at the end of my life where, I mean, just FYI though, that'd be a pretty good auction to go to if that ever happened. But
Yeah, somebody's gonna be making some money.
right. So I think my followers deserve it, and I would like to set as a goal for myself, maybe bring my rendering to life with my 1 ton. Because like I said, I feel like that truck put me on the map, and bring just focus on building more, I think is what I need to do. In showing by example that you can get stuff done. Maybe I could go 2 routes. Like I said, you don't have a shop, here's what you could do, or hey, I'm sliding a new chassis under this truck. This will save you a ton of money if you're building a high-end build. Just buy a chassis that's done, and just you know try to target everybody at once, if that makes sense.
Well, I think don't stress on everybody, just stress on you doing you, and people will find and take out what they can, whether
Right.
that's somebody who doesn't have concrete or somebody who does. But
Yeah.
you're like, hey, I didn't have it,
Right.
and now I got it. And this is what I learned from, and I think that's your authenticity, and I think that's what makes people relate to you, relate to your builds, relate to your process, relate to your passion. And that's why, without a doubt, you're successful, because I enjoy watching your stuff because it's authentic. It's Dave. And
Right.
there's no BS. It's like, hey, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily ashamed I don't have concrete. I want concrete, and I'm going to
Right.
get concrete.
Yeah.
So
You.
I mean my one of my favorite posts you ever did was the girl pulls up and you're ashamed that you don't have windows that roll down, and you did your little foot thing and it rolls down the window, and
Yeah.
those funny things are just everybody can relate to that
Right.
because we have manual cranks like
Yeah.
majority of us do, and it's you're making fun of what makes them unique, and you're owning it and having a great time with it. So I think just keep doing exactly what you're doing, the hustle, and keep kicking ass, and maybe maybe break down a more of a build. When
Yeah.
you sell your trucks, how do you sell them?
Uh, like I said, most of it goes to people that I know. But
But
if
people, do they reach out to you and go, "Hey, I want that," and then you
yeah,
do a parental test, a background check on them, see if
right.
they're criminal. How many DUIs do you have?
Yeah. Well, it's funny, because we all have a certain style, and I find it fun and interesting to find the truck that I know other people, my buddies, I got two-wheel drive short bed guys, or they don't care about the paint, because they're going to paint it anyways and stuff like that. So I'll put it out on the marketplace, stuff like that. But honestly, if we're thinking, I just turn and burn a lot of trucks, it's kind of rare for my stuff to come up for sale publicly sometimes, because sometimes I'll buy a truck with someone else in mind, and I'll build it or, put it together, and I know it's their style, and it'll end up with them, and I'll help them out and make them a deal on it or whatever like that. But we just kind of go that direction. But when we talk about the content again, I take a lot of pride. I've had companies reach out and stuff like that, but like you said, I try to stay authentic. And you see some of these guys that do truck content and stuff like that, and you can kind of see straight through them. It's like, well, they're just doing it to try to get views. They're just trying to do it, for just to fit in because it's kind of the thing going on right now. And I got a lot of people that, try to put out content and they get discouraged because it doesn't take off. But every video, when I hit post, I just walk away from it. I don't care what it does. It doesn't hurt my feelings. And some stuff takes off, some stuff it doesn't. But as long as, you just stay consistent and share stuff and don't be afraid to be different than everybody else, that stuff kind of takes off. But the trucks, I'm trying to be, like I said, a little more putting them out there. I got people. I bought a short bed the other day, a two package deal, and it had a good bed on it. That's why I bought it. But it's completely blasted apart, parts everywhere. It was part of the deal. But I'm like, I am never gonna put this back together. I mean, it was bare metal. But a guy hit me up from Kentucky, and I guess Kentucky's just ate up. They can't find nothing anywhere. So I said, "Hey, this truck's available," and I told him the price on it, and he didn't hesitate, and he drove 8 hours like the next day to come get it. So it's awesome when I can buy trucks for my following, but I think it'll be even cooler when I'm able to disperse them to my following first, maybe because I have. The other day, I ended up with some parts trucks, or it's been a few months back, and I just started posting videos like, "Hey, I'll sell this truck." I forgot what, oh, I was buying my rollback and I was trying to get, funds for it. So I'm like, I got to get rid of some of this stuff. And obviously you start from the bottom of the list and work your way up. But just posting TikToks and reels and that stuff was gone within a week. Granted, Squarebody Salvage hit me up and bought like 4 or 5 of them at one time. But local guy was able to come get a truck, said, "Hey, I've been needing this rear end, I've been needing this, this is great." So I think it's cool that I'm able to have the niche of finding this stuff. I still do a lot of door knocking. I can be driving down the road. You ride with a lot of guys. I remember my old school bus driver was super good at spotting deer. I mean, he could
Mm.
just be driving and you see it. And he's like, "You see that deer right there?" And I'm always looking, I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it. But I kind of joke to myself now, like I can be driving down the road and my head turns without even me thinking about it, and I'll see that bumper right behind the building, and I know exactly what it is, and I'm not scared to go knock on that door, And I got these cards now. When they're not home, I'll leave them in the mailbox, and I bought a handful that way. That I've I bought one a while back. It was 2 year and a half, 2 years later. They found my card in the mailbox and they said, "Hey, this was my grandpa's or whatever. He died. Come take a look at it." And we just go from there.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, boots on the ground, dude. You're doing
Right.
it, right? It's
Yeah.
not like they're just falling in your lap. You're
Yeah.
hustling. Some might, but that's it. You've got the reach, whether that's through your social media. People obviously know you, know what you're doing, and continue to do that. And that's why I was stoked to kind of reach out to you. We've been talking about this for a little while, and just to let the audience get to know who Squarebody Dave is. And I think just keep doing what you're doing. If I was you, I'd come up with some cool merch. I like your style, and just push that out there. That helps. And it's like, hey, you guys, I'm looking to, I'm not looking to retire on this, but I'm passionate about it. One thing I'll never forget, and I've shared this many times, is a gal's like, hey, you do a radio show on these C10s? I'm all, yeah. And you say, well, when did you start? And I'm like, well, back in 2014, and my first C10 I bought, like in 97. And okay. And they're like, oh, you liked them before they were cool. And you're like,
Yeah.
I kind of thought they were always cool, but I
Right.
didn't even know, and I really don't care. And
Yeah.
and if they're not cool to somebody else or the movement or the cool people, I'll still be loving them. And that's just how
Right.
it works
Yeah.
out. So that's how the way we grew up with it. And I think that that's kind of synonymous with our group and your core people who love it. They're like, oh, that's cool. I didn't intend on them just being cool. I just love them.
Right. Yeah. With the content stuff, like I've dabbled in it a little bit. It's just that it's a lot of legwork. You may think that you're selling some t-shirts and stuff, but to me, like I know my target demographic, and like I said, I grew up from nothing. So for me, it's kind of hard to charge $40 for a t-shirt because sometimes you have to, as much as it costs to get it to your door and get it made and stuff like that. So if you see me at shows and stuff, I'll have a stack of these hats and I just give them out, and I really enjoy that, and that doesn't bother me. But I think that would be a direction I need to lean towards because I'm there. I got the clientele. I know people will support me and stuff I do. So it I feel like right now it's oversaturated. I mean, you almost get tired of seeing like truck giveaways, but I think it would be cool. And I've talked to a lot of my buddies, start to finish, you get to see the recovery, you get to see me get it running, maybe put out some polls on what motor you'd like to do it. And maybe like one of those shows I was talking about, I'd love to give a truck away.
Yeah, and I think if you did that and worked with different people and companies, I've thought the same thing. It's just a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but people would tune in. People, you could work with different companies and build some really cool stuff and have a good time. And we'll support you however we can.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you reaching out, and just glad to be part of the community, honestly. And I'm just gonna stick with what I know and put it out there. And like I said, I got my full-time gig, but I've said it many times already, but I never expected to be where I am. So I'm starting to think more long term. What can I turn this into? And I think we're on the way of maybe something big.
Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all Square Body. Where can the audience get you?
All platforms, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Squarebody Dave.
That's it. You guys check them out if you don't follow them already. I assume that you would, but hopefully you've enjoyed getting to know just a little bit deeper with Dave, and we appreciate it. Keep grinding. If we can ever be of any service, or you got questions, comments, concerns, get a hold of me. I'll get a hold of Dave. Dave, let me know. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, I appreciate you, Dave. We'll see you next time.
I appreciate it, Dave. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. If you don't already follow Dave, give him a follow. Squarebody Dave. You can tell he's a genuine dude. He's a rad dude. The dude is so passionate. You got to love that he's trying to pay it forward, give back the community. He sells them to his buddies. He talked about that. Genuine dude who really does care. If you don't follow him already, like I said, give him a follow. If you want one of those Orange Slice M2s, trucktalkmedia.com. Remember, for every purchase of regular, if there is such a thing, a regular Orange Slice diecast, you'll be put into a drawing that you could win a Chase vehicle. So the Chase has some really cool copper wheels, copper bumpers, and it looks just bitchin' on Orange Slice. I've seen some other Chases that maybe, I don't know, I didn't get too excited about. I think they did a great job with this one. So thanks again, M2. And for you guys out there, if you want one, trucktalkmedia.com. Thanks, guys. Have a great week. 320 out. Late.